Mediterranean Sea, an area invaded by the Persians, the Romans, the Byzantine Empire, the Bulgarians, the Venetians, and the Ottomans. But today, my friends, we will play different to a completely different type of battle. Johnny Walker versus Graham Jarvis versus Andreas Lettenbiegler versus 97 other men and women who all want to win the sea to sky. Man and machine versus the elements, from the sand to the mountains. Hey everybody, Soundmaster Kayla here, your host of the Red Bull Signature Series, and welcome to beautiful Kemer, Turkey for the dirt bike madness that is Sea to Sky. Now, if you dig deep into Turkish mythology, you will hear stories of the mighty Kemer. It possesses the head of a lion, the body of a goat, and the tail of a snake. It's actually a monster that is a fitting comparison for this competition, which is really a hard enduro misfit made up of 3 parts. We begin here at the sea at the mighty Mediterranean, across the sand and up into some technical riding in the woods, and then the riders will claw their way high above the tree line to the summit of Mount Olympus, where the gods will be waiting to shower the winner with praise. Don't take my word for it though. How about we throw it over to Tess Sewell and Todd Harris.
Thank you, Sal, and right off the line, the riders are pinned flat out in 5th gear, across the beach and up into a rocky, dry riverbed that funnels towards the mountains.
But don't be misled, Todd. This kind of all-out speed is not what this race is all about. At its heart, it is a tough, technical challenge.
The heroes of hard enduro have come here to Kemer, Turkey, for 3 stages of racing in the 2012 Red Bull Sea to Sky. The motocross-style beach race, and the quick sprint of the forest race. The ideal warm-up and seating procedure for the absolutely epic challenge we see here today, the mountain race.
As its name suggests, Todd, this race starts with the rear wheel of these guys literally touching the waters of the Mediterranean, and then makes it up through 3 distinct ecosystems to the top of Mount Olympus, 7,760 feet above where we are now.
And not 1 yard of the 31 miles these guys will ride today is smooth or straightforward. Once again, these competitors will push the limits of what you can race a dirt bike up and over. Extremely rocky terrain and steep climbs to test both bike and rider.
And now we see the next wave of starters on course. There are 8 start waves today, decided by the riders' finish in yesterday's forest race. Now, unlike the leaders already on course, most of the 97 riders racing today will not ever see the finish line. Instead, their challenge will be to simply make it up as far up the mountain as possible before either they or their bikes can't take it anymore.
And Tess, we get a good look at exactly how rugged the terrain is. These guys are heading right through boulders on the riverbed, which are getting bigger as the riders start to gain elevation. Already, the route-finding aspect of the race is starting to appear.
And the water there was a little deeper than Johnny thought. Walker's taking the time to get water off his goggles as Letty powers past into the first real technical challenge the guys are going to face today.
And you have to wonder, Tess, what Walker's approach to today's race will be. He's had a bit of an up and down season so far this year, some impressive wins, but he's also had some nagging injuries. Do you think he's content to let Letty lead the way and simply follow his line?
It's not a bad strategy, but it could backfire. And Walker and Letty are struggling to stay out of each other's way on this tech section. It's hard enough to ride this section solo. You add other races into the mix, and quickly it becomes just a quagmire. You can see it there. Okay, look at this. Graham Jarvis and the rest of the lead group. Letty and Walker distanced Grimbo in the faster riverbed section, but now he's back in the hunt.
Andreas Lettenbichler first out of the section and back into a less difficult section of the course, and now the traffic jam begins. Johnny Walker with no momentum, obviously struggling over the crux of this section, and that's allowing Letty to establish the first lead of the race.
And now Jarvis gets a run at things. Wow, he was easily up and over. Jarvis's technical mastery on his bike is a result of literally a lifetime of dirt bike riding. The guy started riding trials when he was 10 years old.
A look at the leaderboard. Germany's Andreas Lettenbichler leads the way, Walker in second, and the defending champion currently sitting in third in Graham Jarvis.
We got a great race shaping up here. All of the contenders for the win are in the mix, and we're only 5 miles into things.
The action continues from Kemer, Turkey, as riders race sea to sky, part of the Red Bull Signature Series. While we're away, the man everyone was expecting to challenge for the win here has made a move. Graham Jarvis is in the lead, but hot on his heels is his biggest rival, Johnny Walker. We caught up with Walker yesterday, and he had this to say about their back-and-forth battles.
Graham's the best, you know. He's won so many events this year, you know. So I'd like to be able to beat him, but you know, he's got the experience, you know, being 15 years older, so he's definitely got that on his side. But I've got youth, so we'll just see what happens. It might clash. I made a crash and dislocated the shoulder again, so I had to have an operation to get the shoulder good. So that was like 8 weeks off the bike, and then the last week I was in hospital. I had tonsillitis and glandular fever, so it hasn't been too good. So I got out on Saturday and I'm here now.
But Johnny Walker definitely in the thick of things here today, and here he is once again, content to simply sit behind the race leader Jarvis, following lines, conserving energy. But based off his comments yesterday, he's certainly not riding at 100% power, and the physical demands of the race might soon take its toll. In motorsports, you know, Todd, a lot of emphasis placed on the machine. But what's interesting here is that these two riders are on pretty much identically matched 300cc two-strokes. Jarvis is on the blue Husaberg, Walker on the orange KTM, and even the front suspensions, they feature identical WP closed cartridge forks.
As we know, Tess, in enduro, the emphasis is on consistent forward progress, and it doesn't require the burst of speed of motocross or the fifth gear flat-out nature of desert racing. It doesn't have to look pretty. The rider and the bike just have to get moving forward and upwards, and Letty is doing his best here to accomplish just that.
Oh, and he stalled the bike. Well, he got it started again quickly, but it's little mistakes like this that can end up costing you, especially in a race as tightly contested as what we're seeing here today.
Well, Tess, as you know, Andreas has been a consistent podium threat all season long. But as we saw earlier this season at the Red Bull Hare Scramble in Austria, sometimes hard enduro races are not always decided by rider skill alone.
The Red Bull Signature Series first featured hard enduro earlier this year at the infamous Erzberg Rodeo. The Hare Scramble is one of the hardest challenges in dirt biking and one of the greatest spectacles in sport. .500 would start the main event. The moonlight terrain of the working mine they call the Iron Giant would claim all but 7. Yes, you heard that right. Only 7 riders finished the race, a new record low. Insane terrain challenges aside, the final result board in Austria was decided not by technical prowess, but by navigation. Both Andreas Lettenbichler and Graham Jarvis missed key checkpoints early in the race. Despite beating every challenge the course designers could throw at them, neither rider was allowed to even cross the finish line.
So efficient. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
The DQs allowed KTM's Johnny Walker, who was already firmly in the hunt, to cruise to the win.
Here back in Kemer, Turkey, Britain's Paul Bolton is probably thinking that the terrain here is very Erzberg-esque. Big boulders, steep pitches, that's what characterizes this particular mile of track. And you see Bolton shifting his weight to the rear of the bike in typical hard enduro style, looking for traction.
And the race within the race beginning to take shape here. Spain's Xavi Galindo, who admittedly doesn't have the elite trials pedigree of some of the other leaders, but he's doing his best to hang on to Bolton as the going gets extremely tough. Tess, this is easily one of the tightest races we've seen so far this year. There are literally 5 riders within, say, 30 seconds of each other. You have one stall or a wrong route choice through a technical section, that could easily cost you a placing.
And some really amazingly close racing so far here, Todd. Great riding from everyone, especially through the tech stuff. Oh, look at this, really cool. Gerhard Forster, plate number 72, is up in the mix riding a big Husqvarna 449T. His bike is a big, heavy 4-stroke, designed for the E1 class at EWC Racing. Truly a testament to this guy's strength that he's not only made it this far, but he's also in the mix with the lead group.
And here comes Lars Inako. Lars is fresh off racing the more traditional international 6 days enduro. We spoke with him yesterday, and he walked us through one of the key techniques to tackling the big boulders you see in this section of the course, taking us through what it takes to nail a Casio stomp moment.
When you take a look on the obstacle, you can take it in quarters. The line between the third and the fourth quarter is maybe the best place for the front wheel. Yeah, when you see the obstacle in front of you, you have to go straight too slow. Take the finger on the clutch and also on the front brake. Take the clutch, give a little bit gas. Yeah, you load up the front suspension with the upper body, pull up the front wheel, set it on the stone. When the front wheel hit the obstacle, you give a second short gas and then made like a bunny hop with the bike. Give another short gas and then you're on top. Especially in long uphills, it's very important to do this. In this race I will use this technique at least 300 times.
I can tell you firsthand, Todd, that like many things in life, technique is easier said than done, and all of these top riders, including our current leader, Graham Jarvis, make it look far too easy. Jarvis is into checkpoint 3, still in the lead. Oh, and there you go. Letty has moved back into second. Johnny Walker maintaining third place. We've got an amazing tight race developing here in Kemer, Turkey.
Well, we've seen these same 3 riders battling for the top spot on the podium all season long, Tess.
We remember in Erzberg, of course, the battle went to Johnny Walker. Just a couple of days later in Romania for Romaniacs, Graham Jarvis stamped his authority on things. And here, as the season draws to a close at the Sea to Sky, the same 3 riders are once again going at it for the win.
And this is Galindo. He's in 4th place. He's going to have to pick up the pace if he wants to get onto the podium. We've got an extremely tight race. Johnny Walker currently holding down 3rd place. In 2nd, Andreas Lettenbichler. And clinging to the lead, Husaberg's Graham Jarvis looking to repeat and once again take home the victory here at the Sea to Sky Hard Enduro Race. And it's all part of the Red Bull Signature Series. Graham Jarvis continues to lead, but he knows what's coming up behind him. Johnny Walker, currently sitting in third place, is always a threat, but his health has been a problem and a real issue. For more on that, we sit it down on the course and Tina Dixon.
Guys, before this event, Johnny Walker got sick, ended up in the hospital, and was released just about a week ago. I talked to him about it, and he jokingly said, it's not the best way to prepare for an event. If anything, I'm tired. I'm having a hard time getting out of bed. But the temperatures the last couple days have been really hot. Today, they have dropped considerably. Time will tell if that'll play into his performance. But regardless of that, Johnny said, I'm determined. I'm going to do this event.
Thank you, Tina. And Walker is indeed very much in the hunt of things here, currently in third, but literally within sight of our race leader. A rider he's been battling with all season long, most recently in the hills of the Carpathian Mountains of Romania.
Hard enduro is all about variety, and few events offer the type of diversity that Red Bull Romaniacs throws at the rider. The Red Bull Signature Series saw the sport's best battle it out over 4 stages and over 400 miles. Hot off a string of lesser victories, along with his breakthrough win at the Hare Scramble, those in the know are calling England's Johnny Walker hard enduro's next big thing. But the 21-year-old KTM rider's result in Romania would be decided by the GPS, not the throttle. His inexperience with navigation costing him precious time. Still stinging from his rare loss at the Hare Scramble, Husaberg's Graham Jarvis rode like he had something to prove. Mile after mile, stage after stage, the rider they call the Silent Assassin demonstrated solid navigational skills and extreme technical talent to stamp his authority on the race.
Which brings us here to Kemer, Turkey, to the race that is not an exaggeration. It goes from sea to the sky. Yesterday, the riders contested 2 important stages to determine their start order today. And again, the battle of Jarvis versus Walker was on.
The day started with the beach race, a motocross-style romp down and around the area they call the Turkish Riviera. With the Le Mans-style start, the jumps, and the flat-out speed in the sand, well, that favored the younger rider. Round 1 here in Turkey goes to Johnny Walker, with Xavi Galindo and Andreas Lettenbichler rounding out the Stage 1 podium.
The afternoon brought us the first real enduro-style aggression of the weekend. The riders taking on the forest race in and around Kemer, an appetizer and seeding race for today's big event.
And here, Todd, is where Graham Jarvis really started to look comfortable. Round 2 goes to Jarvis in front of both Walker and Lettenbichler, a result the 2 lower men on the podium are doing their best to shake up here today.
Graham Jarvis versus Johnny Walker. The battle that has been waging all season long continues here today in Kemer, Turkey.
The race is really on here, Todd. Graham Jarvis in the lead by a slim margin. And watch his line selection. I love the way he looks ahead on the trail, takes a wide apex on that turn. Sweet riding from Jarvis. Lettenbichler, this is a big guy, but he's such a solid rider. You see, he muscles that bike around, followed by Walker, and I gotta say, Walker is looking exhausted on this section.
As those 3 get away, here's Xavi Galindo back in the hunt for things. Now, he is obviously not as smooth through this section as our lead group of 3, but he's still battling Tess to try to get on that podium.
Here comes Bolts, riding fast and taking chances. Oh, behind him, Gerhard Forster on the tail end of a small group of riders making short work of this steep section of uphill.
Well, there's your leaderboard. It continues to shuffle around on the slopes of Mount Olympus. It's Jarvis, Lettenbichler, and Walker going 1, 2, and 3. But the reality is that this race is so close that it's still up for grabs. Can Johnny Walker finally take the top step of the podium from Graham Jarvis here at Sea to Sky? Or will Letty play spoiler to them both? We'll find out as the Red Bull Signature Series rolls on. So far, the 2012 edition of the Red Bull Sea to Sky has gone exactly to script. Graham Jarvis versus Johnny Walker versus Andrea Lettenbichler in a three-way fight that started on the shores of the Mediterranean. 97 riders attacked the course, each knowing that less than 15 of them will see the nearly 8,000-foot summit. At the halfway point, we've seen some of the closest racing of the hard enduro circuit this year, with under 30 seconds separating our leader, Graham Jarvis, from his rivals. Behind our top three, the rest of the field struggles to keep the pace. Riders like Galindo, Bolton, and Enochel, each masters of dirt in their own right, simply not fast enough through the technical terrain here in Turkey to challenge for the lead.
We really do have a super tight race taking form here. The top three riders have been back and forth during the first 15 miles of racing. We haven't seen a gap greater than 20 seconds so far all race long, which is simply amazing when you think that most hard enduro races this season have been decided by minutes, not seconds.
Our current leaderboard looks like this. Johnny Walker has slipped into second in front of Letty, and both of them are still within sight of our current race leader, Graham Jarvis. For more course conditions, let's go to Tina Dixon, who is trackside.
Guys, this part of the course is just a sample of what these riders will face as they head from the valley floor into the mountains. This part here is somewhat of a loose lava rock which can cause potential damage to the tires, but these riders are prepared and they're running what's called a moose tube, and that basically eliminates the chance of these riders getting a flat. It also offers the necessary traction. On a course like this with so much varied terrain, these riders are going to need it, especially as they go from the sea to the sky.
Yeah, Tina, traction really is what this is all about. Take a look at Jarvis's body position. He's over the rear of the bike. When you watch motocross races, they go over the front of that bike. But here, traction is just so important. So unlike motocross where the eye line's over the handlebar, you see Johnny Walker here. He's on the back. He's trying to get as much traction as he can. Two key elements to success here today: body and throttle control.
Well, and even the best can struggle with their clutch in this extreme terrain. Johnny Walker stalls his bike, loses a few valuable seconds in the race towards the summit of Mount Olympus.
Great on board from Letty. This really shows how varied the terrain is. We're halfway through the race. The riders have already chalked up approximately 3,500 feet of net elevation gain. The fact that the racing is still so tight is simply amazing. This hard enduro racing, it really started as the mutant offspring of trials riding and the typical enduro racing. Gotta say, it was and is an extreme challenge, and it dares riders to try and take their dirt bikes up and over really gnarly terrain. But to see how hard-fought this race has really become here today, it really speaks to the competitive nature of the sport. Yes, it's man and machine against the mountain, but make no mistake, it's also man versus man here today.
And as we make our way further down the race order, 6th and 7th places, we are starting to see riders having more difficulty tests with the terrain here.
Riders like Schultz and Enochel don't necessarily have the elite trials victories of our current leader, Graham Jarvis.
And get a look at this view, just how difficult and how slow the pace has to be to negotiate this successfully. Well, the technical bike mastery that make Graham Jarvis not only the winningest rider in hard enduro, but he is the guy with the target on his back. And that's what everyone is aiming to beat.
It's hard to get yourself motivated sometimes when you're on your own and it's raining and it's cold. And yeah, it's just something you've got to do if you want to stay at the top. Secret location where I do most of my training. I don't want anyone else coming here. Every race is different. Every race is different. Every race is different. So you do have to train a bit different for each event. When you got like Romaniacs with the GPS, and then the more intense races, some of them a bit faster. In general, the physical training's fairly similar. 2011 was a bit of a dream year, really. People expect me to win now, so there's a bit of pressure. I think there's a few riders that are near the top and they've all got different skills. When it gets really extreme, I'd like to think I'm the best. Second's no good to me. Second's no good to me. Second's no good to me.
Safe to say that since the age of 10 or so, Graham Jarvis has lived to do one thing: ride his motorcycle, and the results are undeniable. No rider in the hard enduro scene is more technically proficient.
Well, Jarvis said second is no good to him, and he's currently living up to that. The Husselberg rider continues to hold on to a very slim lead here in Kemer, Turkey, at the Sea to Sky Hard Enduro Rally, part of the Red Bull Signature Series.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Red Bull Signature Series. There's 3 ways that you can get to the top of Mount Olympus. 1, you could hike it, gnarly. 2, you could ride your dirt bike up, super gnarly. Or 3, you can get social like me with 30 of your new friends and just ride the tram up. How about we get social, huh? You can get involved in the conversation by following us on Facebook and Twitter. And of course, you can go to redbullsignatureseries.com on your mobile device so we can stay in touch. How about we get back to some racing, huh?
Distance-wise, we've reached the 3/4 mark of the race, but some of the toughest, more technically demanding sections of the track are still ahead. For more, here's Tina Dixon.
Guys, I made it up here to the top, and on my Casio phone, the altimeter is saying we are almost at 8,000 feet. We are high up here. And now, as you can see, conditions, they are white out, which could potentially make it very hard for the riders to see. But I did talk to the course designer, and he said the good news is it is not raining right now. And this fog layer, it could clear out, but if it doesn't, these riders do have a GPS that they just may need to depend on in this race to get them here to the finish line.
Todd, that nearly 8,000 foot net elevation gain, that's a little deceiving. Like any mountainous environment, the terrain here on the slopes of Mount Olympus, it undulates up and down. And that adds, according to the organizer, probably another 1,000 feet of additional elevation that doesn't appear on the official course profile. Now, the racers are working their way through the event from checkpoint to checkpoint, but this race is by no means a simple trip from point A to point B. It's all about selecting the best line through the extreme technical sections between those checkpoints. And there's currently none better at that than our leader, Graham Jarvis. Oh, nice pivot turn, and you can see how steep this section of the course really is. Great shot there. And Walker coming through the same section, same skill, taking that bike around. Awesome riding from both of these British riders on this incredibly steep technical section.
The on-again, off-again rain we've been experiencing here today is luckily off again for the moment. The sections our leaders are currently attacking is tough enough completely dry. Add any kind of significant moisture, and the roots and rocks become that much more slippery.
Multi-time Baja 1000 winner, American Kendall Norman, he came out and raced the Erzberg Hare Scramble and Red Bull Romaniacs earlier this year. And one of his unique observations was how different the soil is here. How much differently his tires hooked up over the terrain in Europe. It's not the soft, forgiving, sand-like soil we see in Baja or on some of the sandy outdoor national motocross tracks. These hard enduro courses are primarily rock, and the way they set up their bikes, the suspension in particular, is a lot different than what the top moto guys are running. The terrain's also why you see guys running these lightweight two-strokes. The two-smokers all but disappeared from the motocross scene, but the power-to-weight ratio makes them ideal for these extreme challenges. A totally different style of dirt biking.
As the fans get the up-close and personal look on course. Here's Galindo coming into view. Now, one of the key characteristics of these hard enduro events is that the riders don't get to pre-ride the course. In contrast to an AMA National where the riders get to train on the track, these riders have to become masters of the read and run philosophy, looking as far ahead as possible, evaluating the terrain, and adjusting their line accordingly.
And that's exactly why we've seen the rise of riders with trials experience. The top guys are able to take their small trials bike skills to the bigger displacements of a more typical dirt bike, and I talked about this before. That's exactly what makes Johnny Walker so dangerous. Yes, he's got a very solid trials background, but in contrast to someone like Jarvis, Walker also rides motocross. He's very comfortable with both tech riding and high speeds.
Lars Enelkel coming into 7th place right now. You can see just how precarious these lines are. There's not a lot of room for air off the right-hand side of Lars Enelkel's bike. In the battle of age and experience versus youth and enthusiasm, age and experience is currently on top. Great Britain's Graham Jarvis hangs on to a slight lead over a rider 15 years his junior in Johnny Walker. Before we move on, right now let's check in with Sal Masekela one more time.
I love the Signature Series. I mean, we've seen some truly groundbreaking events in 2012, like this one here on the majestic Mediterranean coast of Turkey. But you know what? We have even more in store for you in 2013. Exotic locations featuring every season and, of course, the best action sports athletes on the planet. It's all right here on the Red Bull Signature Series. In 2013, the Red Bull Signature Series takes flight over snow, water, ice. The elements of nature harnessed for man's passions. Combining the best of backcountry snowboarding, free-ride mountain biking, big wave surfing, and more. The Red Bull Signature Series is one unrestricted, unrivaled, awe-inspiring spectacle. Watch it all year long on NBC.
The race here in Kemer, Turkey has literally taken us from the sea to the sky, from the beaches of the Mediterranean to the top of Mount Olympus, and now the racers race the crux section. For more on that, we go to Tina Dixon.
Guys, this last 700 feet is going to prove to be a huge test for these riders. They are so close to the finish line. They can almost taste it. But before they get there, they have to deal with this section of loose, jagged-like rock. It is all over the place. And remember, this is at the end. They've had to deal with varying weather conditions. Fatigue could be a factor. So strategy, picking the right line, and overall technical mastery is going to make a difference here.
Yeah, Todd, Tina's not exaggerating. Last year, we saw Chris Birch make a last-ditch move in this very section to go from 4th to 3rd, less than 300 yards from the finish line. I know it's a cliche, but it's truly not over in hard enduro until the bike is across the line.
Well, Graham Jarvis looking to make sure that does not happen to him. He has dropped Walker here in the final stretches of the race. And look at this, Tess. The 37-year-old can see the finish line. What a performance by Graham Jarvis as he brings it through to the checkered flag. He is your 2012 Red Bull Sea to Sky champion.
Nice, an extremely strategic race, Todd. Both Letty and Walker, they just seemed content to shadow Jarvis. They were waiting to pounce on any mistake he might make along the way, but true to style, he made no mistakes that his competition could capitalize on. So that leaves Johnny with one last technical section between him and a second consecutive second place finish here in Turkey. Now, based off his battles this week with injury and illness, the rising star of hard enduro, well, he simply didn't have enough in the tank to take control of the race. He followed all race long and, except for the start section, never really put the pressure on Jarvis.
And this view says it all, just how difficult hard enduro is. Johnny Walker really struggling with this section, and you saw moments ago Graham Jarvis pretty much blitzed through here. So Walker, despite all his injuries and troubles and time in the hospital, he will also complete this course in an amazing time. But as you pointed out, Tess, once again, he is a runner-up to Graham Jarvis.
And what everyone's really thinking, if he can do this injured and ill, what happens when he's fit?
First and second are decided here on the summit of Mount Olympus, but the final spot on the podium is still up for grabs. Can Letty hang on and round things out? We're about to find out here at the Sea to Sky Hard Enduro Rally, part of the Red Bull Signature Series. The epic race from the sea to the sky has gone once again to Husaberg's Graham Jarvis, the 37-year-old proving too technically proficient for the much younger Johnny Walker. At our last race checkpoint, the third spot on the podium was occupied by Andreas Lettenbichler. But past editions of the race have shown us that anything can happen in this technical section near the summit.
Well, we should be seeing Letty come through the fog anytime now, Todd. And oh, wait a second, that's not a Husqvarna, that's a KTM, the number 33 of Paul Bolton, not Letty.
Up the kicker.
Wow, after being in the top three for literally 99% of the race, Andreas Lettenbichler will not take home third place. Someone in this last section, Paul Bolton, has made it past Letty.
Left. Okay, come on.
So for the second year in a row, this last 700 yards of track has proven decisive in deciding the final podium spot here at the Red Bull Sea to Sky. And with all due respect, Paul Bolton was a little off the pace of our three leaders all race long. So to see him emerge from the fog here in third place is a bit of a shock. You really do have to wonder what happened to Letty.
Oh, this is absolutely amazing. You can see now Bolton making it up that very final stretch. He will be the third place finisher here in Turkey.
How about this?
He couldn't be happier. What a breakthrough ride for Bolts.
Amazing. Bit lucky, Letty's chains, come on.
What was that, Letty?
Letty's chains, come on.
Oh, you hear what he said there? Letty has apparently dropped a chain somewhere down the last stretch of the mountain. Well, that's the answer to your question, Todd. Andreas Lettenbichler has suffered a heartbreaking mechanical almost within sight of the finish line.
To be that competitive for the entire length of the race test and then have it come down to a mechanical in the final stretch, that has got to be gut-wrenching.
Well, it just takes a simple mistake. You rub the chain against a rock and it comes off the sprocket. This is Letty, up and over the final tough section. And unlike most of the 97 starters here today, Letty will make it to the top of the mountain, just not in the position he was gunning for. The way he's riding here, a complete contrast to what we saw earlier. He's completely disheartened. He was up and over there, but you can read the annoyance he's got to be feeling through his body language, letting the bike roll backwards.
An up and down season for Letty this year. A crushing disappointment at the Hare Scramble where he was DQ'd, and now this, losing a spot on the podium due to mechanical in the final half mile of a 30-mile race. Our final leaderboard looks like this. Paul Bolton, who was lurking in the top 5 all race long, sneaks onto the podium in the final minutes, while a fatigued Johnny Walker could do nothing to stop Graham Jarvis from taking home a repeat win. Right now, let's check in with Tina Dixon, who's with our winner.
Another Sea to Sky and another win for Graham Jarvis. Congratulations. And there was a lot of talk about you and Johnny Walker coming into this race. Experience won out again.
Yeah, we're both on top form, I think. I knew it was going to be a close race. It's a rideable track, and Johnny was following for most of the race. I just had to focus on what I was doing and not make any mistakes, and it came right to just 5 minutes down the hill. It got a bit real gnarly, and I just went for it, gave it everything, and luckily it paid off.
Let's talk about the season. You've won everything other than Eresburg.
Yes, it is. I'm just so happy that I've managed to stay consistent throughout the year. I mean, these type of events, there's so much can go wrong, so just have such a consistent form over the past 2 years has been fantastic.
All right, well, congratulations. Enjoy this.
Thanks a lot.
Graham Jarvis takes home his second Sea to Sky title as well as today's Red Bull signature moment. On terrain that pushes the best dirt bikers in the world to their limits, Graham Jarvis was simply a cut above, and in no place was his mastery more apparent than on the final push to the summit. The section that had other riders fighting for traction and cooking their bikes took a seemingly easy twist of the throttle combined with perfect body position for today's champ. Graham Jarvis takes home today's signature moment.
Johnny finishing up second here at Sea to Sky. Where was the moment that Graham got away from you?
He got away about 3/4 of the way up the last hill, you know. He got in a hole and I got in the same hole after him, and I just couldn't get out. He got away and I never seen him after that.
How satisfied are you with second?
Yeah, I'm super happy with second, you know. I was coming into this race a little bit down, you know. I've been in hospital, but apart from that, you know, I did everything I could to get to the top, and I'm happy.
Well, congrats for finishing up on the podium.
Thank you.
Well, Tess, just an amazing race here today in Turkey.
Oh yeah, Todd, really interested to see both the terrain and the riders dictate the outcome. You know, Red Bull Sea to Sky isn't the hyper-extreme challenge like we've seen at the Hare Scramble, and luck can play a role like it did with Letty, but ultimately these guys will tell you that the track here in Turkey is very rideable.
Graham Jarvis, your 2012 Red Bull Sea to Sky champion. Kemer, Turkey has certainly proven to be the perfect venue for this last hard enduro race of the 2012 Red Bull Signature Series. But the Signature Series continues with more of the best sporting events from around the world. Right now, we send it back over to Sal Masekela.
Thanks, guys. Well, Sea to Sky has literally lived up to its name. We traveled from the banks of the Mediterranean to the summit of Mount Olympus, and Graham Jarvis sitting on top of the world, proving again he has the right combination of both that technical skill and endurance to make himself a champ 2 years in a row. The Red Bull Signature Series continues with the world's best freeride mountain biking from Virgin, Utah at Rampage on December 8th and Torque Off-Road Championship Racing from Crandon, Wisconsin on December 29th, both on NBC. Thanks a lot for hanging out with us today, and on behalf of the entire NBC Sports team, including Todd Harris, Tess Sewell, and Tina Dixon, I'm Sal Masekela. We'll see you next time.